Welcome to podcast time. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm Rachel, and I'm here with my friend Nick.
Hey, Rachel. It's great to be here. Today, we have a really important topic for everyone listening. We are talking about how to introduce yourself and talk about who you are in English.
Exactly. Whether you are at a party, starting a new job, or just meeting someone at a coffee shop, knowing how to talk about yourself is the first step to making a great connection.
It can be a bit scary, though, right? Even for me, sometimes I don't know what to say first. Should I talk about my job? My hobbies? My cat?
Well, maybe save the cat for later. Let's start with the basics. When we meet someone for the first time, we usually start with a greeting and our name. Simple, right? But the tone matters a lot.
Right. If it's a casual situation, I usually just say, "Hi, I'm Nick. Nice to meet you." But if I'm at a business meeting, I might say, "Hello, my name is Nick. It's a pleasure to meet you."
That's a good distinction. Nice to meet you is perfect for almost every situation. And notice how Nick used I'm instead of I am. For our learners out there, using contractions like I'm or my names makes you sound much more natural and relaxed.
Definitely. And once you've said your name, the next question is usually, "Where are you from?" or "Where do you live?" This is a great way to keep the conversation going.
I love that question because it's an easy way to share a little bit of your background. For example, I could say, I'm originally from London, but I've been living in New York for 5 years now.
Oh, that's a great sentence structure. You used originally from to show your birthplace and living in for your current home. If I were answering, I'd say, I grew up in Chicago, but I moved here last year.
Grew up is a phrasal verb we use all the time. It just means the place where you lived when you were a child.
So we have the name and the location. But a conversation is a two-way street. You can't just talk about yourself the whole time. Rachel, what do you do to make sure the other person feels included?
That's the golden rule of introductions. Always ask a question back. After I say where I'm from, I'll ask, how about you? Or, have you lived here long?
That makes a huge difference. It shows you are interested in them, too. It turns an introduction into a real conversation. You know, Rachel, once the hello and the where are you from are out of the way, there's usually a tiny pause. That's the moment where people often ask, "So, what do you do?"
Ah, the classic question. In English, when someone asks, what do you do? They are almost always asking about your job or your main activity during the day.
Right. They aren't asking what you're doing right now, like drinking coffee. They want to know your profession. I usually say, I work as a podcast producer.
And notice how Nick used the word as. I work as a, followed by the job title. For our students, another simple way is just saying, I am a, or I am an. For example, I am a teacher, or I am an engineer.
But what if someone doesn't have a traditional job? Maybe they're a student, or they're between jobs at the moment.
That's a great point. If you're a student, you can say, I'm studying marketing at university, or I'm taking a course in graphic design. It sounds very proactive and interesting.
And if you're looking for work, you can say, I'm looking for a new challenge in the tech industry, or I'm transitioning into a new career. It sounds much more positive than just saying, I don't have a job.
I love that. Transitioning is a fantastic B2 level word. It means you are changing from one thing to another. Now, sometimes people ask a slightly different version. What keeps you busy?
Oh, I like that one. It's a bit more open. It allows you to talk about your job, but also your family, or even a big project you're working on.
Exactly. If someone asks me that, I might say, well, work is busy, but I'm also spending a lot of time learning to play the guitar lately.
See? That's the hook. By mentioning the guitar, you've given me something new to talk to you about. I could ask, how long have you been playing? Or, what kind of music do you like?
That's the secret to a natural conversation. You give a little bit of information, the fact, and then you add a little detail or feeling.
So instead of just saying, I'm an accountant, which can sometimes end the conversation quickly, I could say, I'm an accountant. It's a lot of numbers, but I really enjoy the problem-solving part of it.
Perfect. That gives the other person a window into your personality, not just your tax returns. It makes you human and approachable.
It's all about building that bridge between two people. But speaking of things we enjoy, we should probably talk about what we do when we
You're
aren't working,
absolutely
shouldn't
right,
we?
Nick. While work is a big part of life, people usually connect more deeply over the things they do for fun. This is where the conversation really starts to get colorful.
I agree. When someone asks, what do you do in your free time? Or, do you have any hobbies? It's a chance to show your true self. I always find it easier to talk about things I'm passionate about.
Me too. But for many learners, the word hobby can feel a bit formal or like something you only do in school. In a natural conversation, we often use phrases like, I'm really into, or I'm a big fan of.
Those are great. For example, I might say, I'm really into hiking. It sounds much more casual than, my hobby is hiking.
Exactly. Or if you love movies, you could say, I'm a big film buff, or I spend a lot of my weekends watching classic cinema.
Now, what if you don't have one specific hobby? I know some people feel pressured when they are asked this question because they feel like they don't do anything exciting, like skydiving or painting.
You don't need to be an expert to talk about your interests. You can use the phrase, I enjoy, followed by an ing verb. For example, I enjoy cooking for my friends, or I enjoy going for long walks in the park. These are simple, everyday things that everyone understands.
That's a good tip. It's also okay to talk about what you are trying to do. You could say, I've started getting into yoga recently, or I'm trying to read more nonfiction this year. It shows you are growing and learning.
And just like we discussed with work, adding a why makes it much better. If you say, I love gardening because it helps me relax after a stressful day, you're sharing a feeling. That feeling is something the other person can relate to, even if they don't like gardening themselves.
I see what you mean. They might respond with, oh, I totally understand. For me, swimming is the way I de-stress.
Precisely, you found common ground. Another common way to ask about interests is, what do you do for fun? It's very common in the US and it's very friendly.
I use that one all the time. It opens the door to talk about anything, traveling, trying new restaurants, or even just binge watching a new series on Netflix.
Speaking of which, binge watching is a great modern term for our learners. It means watching many episodes of a TV show in a short time.
Guilty as charged. But honestly, sharing these small details is what turns a stranger into a friend. It's about being authentic. We've covered names, jobs, and hobbies, which are the big three of any introduction. But I think something that trips up English learners is knowing how much to say depending on where they are.
That is such a nuanced point, Nick. Context is everything. Talking about yourself at a loud, busy party is very different from talking about yourself during a lunch break with a new colleague.
Exactly. At a party, people usually want the highlight reel, short, fun, and snappy answers. If I ask you, what do you do for fun at a party, I'm probably looking for a quick answer so we can keep the energy up.
Right. You wouldn't want to give a 10-minute history of your stamp collection while the music is blasting. In those high-energy settings, brevity is your friend. You can say something like, I'm a big outdoors person. I love skiing in the winter and surfing in the summer. How about you? Are you into sports?
But then, let's look at the other side. Imagine you're at a networking event or a professional meet and greet. The tone changes, doesn't it?
It does. It becomes a bit more structured. In a professional setting, we often use what's called an elevator pitch. It's a short summary of who you are and what you do professionally, named because it should be short enough to say during an elevator ride.
I love that term. For an elevator pitch, you might say, I'm a project manager with a background in sustainable energy, and I'm currently looking to connect with people in the green tech space.
Perfect. It's clear, it's professional, and it tells the other person exactly why you are there. But let's not forget about small talk. Many learners find small talk frustrating because it feels like you aren't saying anything important.
I used to feel that way too, but I've realized that small talk is actually like a social handshake. It's a way to test the water before you dive into deeper topics.
That's a great way to put it. Commenting on the environment is a classic way to start talking about yourself indirectly. For example, I can't believe how cold it is today. I'm from California, so I'm still not used to these winters.
See what you did there? You complained about the weather, which is very British of you, by the way, but you also shared that you're from California. You've given the other person a piece of information to grab onto.
Precisely. It's all about these little breadcrumbs of information. Whether you're at a wedding or a workshop, the goal is to be helpful to the other person by giving them something to respond to.
We've talked a lot about what to say, but I think we should address the nerves. For many English learners, the biggest challenge isn't the vocabulary, it's the fear of making a mistake while talking about themselves.
I completely understand that. When you're nervous, your mind can go blank, and suddenly you forget how to say what you do for a living. My best advice here is to have a few anchor phrases ready. These are simple sentences you've practiced so much that they come out automatically.
That's a lifesaver. It's like having a script in your pocket. But what happens if someone asks you a question and you don't understand it? That can be a real confidence killer.
Oh, it happens to everyone. Even native speakers have to ask for clarification sometimes. If you didn't catch something, don't just smile and nod. You can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Or, what do you mean by that exactly?
And if they use a slang word or an idiom you don't know, you can be honest. You can say, I'm not familiar with kufres. What does it mean? Most people are more than happy to explain. It actually makes the conversation more interesting.
Exactly. It shows you are listening. Now, another common situation is when someone asks, how are you? Beginners often just say, fine, thank you.
Which is okay, but it's a bit of a conversation ender, isn't it? It's like a wall.
It really is. To keep the flow going, try the fine but technique. For example, I'm doing well, but I'm a bit tired because I stayed up late reading a great book.
There you go. You've used fine as the answer, but you added a detail about the book. Now I can ask you what book it was. It's all about keeping the door open.
Another thing learners worry about is their accent or grammar. But honestly, Nick, when you meet someone new, are you checking their grammar?
Not at all. I'm looking for a connection. I'm looking for common interests. If someone says, I work in a bank instead of at a bank, it doesn't matter. I still know what they mean.
That's the spirit. Communication is about the message, not perfection. One very helpful tip for B1 or B2 learners is to use filler words to give yourself time to think. Words like, well, actually, or to be honest.
I use those constantly. If you ask me a question I wasn't expecting, I might say, that's a good question. Well, let me think. Those few seconds are gold. They let your brain catch up with your mouth.
It makes you sound very natural, too. It's much better than a long, silent pause. It shows you are engaged and thinking about your answer.
We've covered so much today, Rachel, from the first hello to sharing our deepest passions. But there's one final piece of the puzzle: how to end a conversation gracefully.
That is a skill in itself. You don't want to just walk away after talking about your favorite movies. Ending a conversation well is just as important as starting one, because it leaves the other person with a positive memory of you.
I agree. You want to close the loop. A great way to do this is to reference something you talked about earlier. For example, if we were talking about your guitar lessons, I might say, "It was great meeting you, Rachel. Good luck with that guitar practice."
That's perfect. It shows you were really listening. If it's a professional setting, you might say, I've really enjoyed hearing about your project. I'd love to keep in touch.
Keep in touch is a very common idiom. It just means to stay in contact in the future, maybe through email or social media. And speaking of social media, it's very common now to ask, "Are you on LinkedIn?" or "Do you have Instagram?"
Exactly. It's the modern way of exchanging business cards. But even if you don't plan on seeing the person again, a polite, "It was a pleasure chatting with you," or "I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day," goes a long way.
It really does. So, let's recap the main points for our listeners. To introduce yourself effectively, start with a friendly greeting, share where you're from and what you do, talk about an interest or two, and always ask questions back.
And don't forget the most important thing, be yourself. You don't need to use the biggest words in the dictionary to be interesting. Use the English you know, speak clearly, and show genuine curiosity about the person in front of you.
That's the best advice yet. Every expert was once a beginner, and every friend was once a stranger. The more you practice these introductions, the more natural they will feel.
Well, Nick, I think that's a great place to stop for today. I've really enjoyed our conversation about, well, conversations.
Me too, Rachel. And to everyone listening at home or on your commute, why not try writing down your own introduction script tonight? Practice it in the mirror or with a friend.
That's a fantastic idea. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We hope you feel a little more confident the next time you have to say, "Hi, my name is."
Until next time, keep practicing and keep talking.
Bye-bye.
See ya!